We got Arkansas 5-3 hosting Ole Miss this weekend 6-2. So right now this line is -6.5. Ole Miss on the road, and the over/under is 53.5. Arkansas over 600 total yards for the third time this season. Last game, Ole Miss got away with one there. How you feeling about this game?
I mean, this is the season for Ole Miss. I mean, every game's the season now, and I don't mean that. I don't, mean that as a pun. You lose one more, you're out of not just the SEC race, which you're probably already out of, but the playoff race, because the 10-2 Ole Miss with a win over Georgia is definitely getting in the playoff. Arkansas, to me, we got a pretty good idea of who they are. It's just, who is Taylon Green going to be on that day? Because if Taylon Green is a good enough thrower, Arkansas is a legitimate problem because they're better on the offensive line than what I thought they were going to be. And what T. Will has done with this defense has been very, very impressive. Not that they have awful personnel, but he has to do a lot of the heavy lifting from a play call standpoint and gambling standpoint, whether it's stunning up front, whether it's blitzing, whether it's not being afraid to run skinny coverage and send pressure. And he's done that, and he's gotten home a lot. But this is about Ole Miss to me. And it's somewhat reminiscent of what we saw with Tennessee earlier. And we still got to see if Tennessee can get into more of a rhythm offensively. You wait all this time as an Ole Miss fan to finally have a defense that is good enough to win you a championship. And you never really worry about the offense because you have Lane Kiffin. But what a stroke of irony. This year, the offense, while it hasn't been terrible, they're great on the first drive, and then when they get off script, they can't move the ball. They struggle to move the ball, which is exactly the opposite of what we've seen from Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin is one of the best that, in recent memory that I can remember, of when you're going off script and calling from the hip and you're playing the game, can just dice you up. But there's no fun in this Ole Miss offense anymore. There's not a lot of creativity. There's not a lot of wow plays. And I get that Trey Harris has been hurt, but all I heard about was how y'all went to the portal at Ole Miss and got all these big-time, great-ass players, and the offense was going to be elite again, but oh, buddy, the difference is going to be the defense. Now I turn on the TV, and just like Tennessee has looked, offensively, it's like, nah, can run the ball decent. They finally started throwing the ball to Prieskorn last week. It's good to finally see him get involved. But I have a hard time. I'm thinking this is just who Ole Miss is, an average offense and an above-average defense. And going to Arkansas, this is a humongous game for them because, again, it's the season. But for Arkansas, I feel like they can score enough points against this Ole Miss defense to really put that Ole Miss offensive line, which, make no mistake, has been a huge disappointment. I think the only bigger disappointment from an offensive line standpoint overall was LSU's, and they're pass protecting really well. But this is a scary, scary game for Ole Miss because Arkansas has confidence, and Taylon Green can make some incredible plays when he extends the play, when he takes off. But I'm more worried, and I cannot believe I'm going to say this on a national sports show when we cover college football the way we do. Going to play Arkansas, I am more worried about Ole Miss's offense being able to generate points than I am about their defense being able to stop a Bobby Petrino coach, pretty prolific offense when you get down to it. This, I don't know right here, boys. 6.5 seems like a lot to me because I feel like we know who Ole Miss is on offense. Y'all, that first drive, y'all look like hell on wheels. Y'all look like the Globetrotters. Then after that, you look like Drew Barrymore from 51st States. Your ass just forgets for 3 quarters.
So, Blaine, Oklahoma had the lead on Ole Miss at halftime. Ole Miss shuts them out in the second half. Do you think that Arkansas, from a defensive standpoint, can do what Oklahoma was able to do to Ole Miss for a lot of that game, or really what Arkansas was able to do when they played that Tennessee offense?
Yeah.
Can they do that on defense, but on the flip side of the football, put up enough points with Taylon Green and Bobby Petrino calling plays to really beat
I feel
Ole
like this
Miss?
could be one of the best bets on the board this weekend. And look, Ole Miss, go back and watch that. I watched every play of that Oklahoma game. Ole Miss got beat up front.
That's happened like 4 times.
Like they got legitimately beat up. And if any Oklahoma fans are questioning Brent Venables, look how hard those guys play for them on defense. That question should be out the door. But I think Arkansas right now is a scary football team to play. It really is. I think T. Will's going to have a great game plan on defense. I don't think you have to do too much on defense when playing this Ole Miss offense. I don't think they run the ball great. Trey Harris's health is in question. Other than that, I think Juice Wells has been a disappointment this year.
He has.
A lot of people can agree on that. Jackson Dart hasn't looked great. He's looked pressured. He's making mistakes. I think Arkansas, Taylon Green, they go as Taylon Green goes. 58 points against Mississippi State. He looked good in both sides, running and throwing. The defense looked serviceable. And I think this weekend right now, +7, is that what it's at?
6.5 right now, plus 200 money line for Arkansas.
The value's there on money
You think
line.
that's going to go up
right
or down?
now?
There's
we're about
no way
to talk
that
about
they
this
can bet down.
next game as well. I think you can get Arkansas plus 7.5 and Pittsburgh plus 7.5 and parlay that. I feel like those are two phenomenal bets.
Well, that'd be a hell of a teaser, too, to throw into, get that extra 6-7 points or whatever. But it's funny. I'm sitting here thinking about, all right, what are the keys? And obviously, whenever Taylon Green's going to be on the field, the quarterback run game is a big deal. But if you look and go back to that LSU game with Ole Miss, and I know Ole Miss lost, who was the one running the ball when it mattered the most? What was actually getting them their biggest plays? It was Jackson Dart running the ball. And not just on design runs, because they're not going to run him into the wall 70 times a game. But when that first read isn't there, and he realizes it's man coverage, he does a really good job of recognizing and taking off. And here's where, if you're Travis Williams, you play the game a little bit. Ole Miss hasn't really been dominating anybody on the outside. Like, I like a lot of the one-on-one matchups if I'm Arkansas with my defense out there. So do I need to take all these risks, right? With an offensive line in Ole Miss that maybe, if you just line up in your base over, right, or your base looks, whatever Arkansas wants to get out with, and kind of I was talking about with Penn State and Ohio State, see if you can win up front and be even across the board. Guess what that eliminates? That eliminates Jackson Dart picking up the hot, replacing the blitz with the ball, or you stunning the front, or you bringing pressure and it gets picked up, or Jackson Dart makes one guy miss. And typically when you're bringing pressure, you're playing man in the back end, and that's when he takes off and burns you. You don't have to do that if you're Arkansas, I think, in this game. I wonder if we'll get conservative Travis Williams. Against Tennessee, buddy, you had to force the action. You had to go get those cats. You just had to with what you did in Nico's running ability. With this Ole Miss offensive line, not that Tennessee's is some elite one, and you're at home, I don't know if you really got to go out here and throw all the magic tricks out of the bag at them. At first, I would just line up and say, let's go kick their ass.
I mean, it seems like this year, it's really not that hard to keep this Ole Miss offense in front of you.
No, that's the difference.
Right? And usually, like a Lane Kiffin coach team, the layers and the layers and the layers that you have, all the eye candy, safeties get mixed up and you see big plays. They're a team that's hard to keep in front of you. I just don't feel like that with this Ole Miss team. They don't run the ball great. I mean, they're banged up. I mean, Trey Harris is good, but, I mean, he's not great. Hadn't shown great things for me this year. And Arkansas feels like a team, like, God, if you give them hope early.
Oh,
if you give them hope early, buddy, they're going to grab it, and you're not going to be able to rip it out of their hand.
Yeah.
Hey, YouTube, appreciate you guys hopping in. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on, and like a video or two. Doesn't take a lot of effort.